Defense and a dog at quarterback. That's what won Oklahoma the football game. Case in point, record-setting day and a quarterback with the unrelenting will to get his team back in. And of course, we're also going to talk about the penalties that probably should have counted and what's going on with SEC officiating. But final score 24-17. Oklahoma secures a 4-0 start the second time underneath Brent Venables, gets a signature win in conference play, and we have a lot to discuss. So welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Auburn Nation, Oklahoma Nation, like the video, hit the ring notification, subscribe to the channel because we talk Oklahoma football, we talk Auburn football daily, we talk winners, losers, regardless about the game. Make sure that also you're following us on social media at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're proudly brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Really simple. Going over to FANDUEL.com/SECU. Lay down $5 if you're a new customer. Get $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. So you think the Jamateer is now the favorite to win the Heisman? FanDuel thinks so. Go on over and place that bet before the odds get too far out of your liking. If you still think that the win total and the over is going to hit for Oklahoma and for Auburn, go ahead and play it over there. Whatever you want to play, just go visit FanDuel.com/SECU. This game did not go at all how I projected it would. I said in the preview that I thought we were going to see more of the rushing attack from Oklahoma, especially now that Torrey Blaylock had been able to kind of separate himself as a clear-cut number one running back. Yeah, he averaged 1.2 yards playing fish with 13 yards. I thought both quarterbacks were going to be able to utilize their legs. You include the sack total numbers, which we'll get to in a minute. Jackson Arnold had 21 carries for negative 11 yards, and Jamateer had 29 yards. They won through the air in a lot of ways, and they won because of a couple of penalties that benefited one side and a couple that didn't benefit the other side. But ultimately, defense was the story of the day on both sides. And honestly, if I'm an Auburn fan, and we'll get to you in a minute, but we always start with winners over here, you got to feel confident that at least you have one spectrum of the puzzle solved and a second spectrum that very well was on display despite not being perfect. Let's start off with Oklahoma. Again, when you set a record, that ultimately usually means you're winning a football game. 11 sacks on the day. Now, 9 sacks on the day. 12 tackles for losses. The ability to take away a rushing attack that was potent against Baylor, that was potent against South Alabama, that truly had started to signal itself as the bread and butter of what was going on the Plains. Taking that away and forcing Jackson Arnold to win with his arm. Forcing a quarterback that you knew very well to come on into your building, a place that he resided, and be able to pull it out in an area where he struggled. And you found success. You did. Great blitzes. Exceptional ability to win at the line of scrimmage. Careless penalties. We'll get to that in a minute too. That forced Auburn to step back and gave the opportunities and the advantages to know what play was going to be unfolding for Oklahoma's defensive line, and they went after it. And everybody stepped on up. No R. Mason Thomas for the first half. Didn't matter. You were able to get David Stone involved. You were able to get Kip Lewis involved. You were able to get Jaden Jackson involved. You were able to get Kendall Daniels involved. You got Michael Baranski involved. You got Taylor Wayne involved. Kobe McKenzie got involved. Robert Spears Jennings came down and made a big-time play. So it didn't matter who was the spectrum. What mattered is your ability to dissect what was at your horizons and then make plays on that. The other thing that's really important here is that we got to remember this is now Brent Venables' defense. And what was something that we talked about going into the year? Coaches, when they know that they're on the hot seat, ultimately have to make the difficult decision of either trusting their balance in the hands of somebody else or taking the reins, accepting more responsibility, and ultimately having to be the signal caller. And Brent Venables said, my team, my defense, I'm going to show on out. They did so against Michigan. Michigan won today, for those of you who are counting at home, so it's now a quality win for Oklahoma's defense. They were able to eviscerate Bryce Underwood, force him to throw the football. They took away the rushing attack. Today, took away the rushing attack. Jeremiah Cobb, been phenomenal on the ground. Yeah, he finished with less than 2 yards of play. I mean, my bad. He was the only person that found any success. 10.2 yards of play. Damari Alston, back for the first time after dealing with the shoulder injury. Averaged about 3.6 yards of play. As a unit, because of the fact that you include those rushing yards against Jackson Arnold, they averaged 1.9 yards an attempt off 36 carries. That says something. That's a good selling point to kind of put yourself in, especially when you look at this as the baseline for what you got coming forward with matchups against Mizzou, with matchups against South Carolina, with matchups against Texas out in Dallas and Red River. It's something that could help you eventually catapult yourself into the conversation of being a more seasoned team. And then you have a quarterback. And there's no shot Jackson Arnold. This isn't, because we're going to get to him in a moment. But sometimes you just know the second that he steps out on the field, that guy's different. That guy has the charisma, the poise, the pedigree, the nuances, the seasonedness that we need for our program. I've preached this time and time again. There's a place like Oklahoma where you have to dial it up to, not D-bag is the right word, but certainly alpha dog mentality. The second that you touch down, everyone in that room has got to know that you are the best in the game. You got to act like it. Got to carry yourself like it. Got to practice like it. Got to act like it in the workroom, the film study. And then on Saturdays, when the huddle breaks, everybody is following your command. Everybody is on the same page as you. I don't know if Jackson Arnold had that mentality last year. John Mateer does. John Mateer never panicked, never felt like that the moment was too big. Watched as Malcolm Simmons found his way into the end zone. Shake it off. Cool. Let's go drive down the field. Oh, no receivers open? Fine. I'll do it myself. Tuck it in. Not be afraid. As you're going out of bounds, as you're going down, realizing all I got to do is stretch this across the pylon. It doesn't have to go far. Just has to touch the white line. And it's like a painting that belongs in the Sistine Chapel or probably somewhere inside of Gaylord Memorial Stadium at this point. Throwing it across and just right in. Guaranteed. Now we get the lead. The aggressiveness, the unrelentingness to not be afraid of the situation. That's what you saw today. You also saw a couple of bumbling mistakes that could have brought this game further out of hand or at least benefited and given Oklahoma better field advantage. Isaiah Satenga. He had a big time touchdown. Now, and we'll talk about that in a moment. He also had a careless holding call on a Deion Burks crossing pattern right before halftime. Would have at least gotten you in field goal range. Would have at least given you an opportunity to maybe extend your lead, make it 13-10. Momentum start to bode a little bit more in your favor. How many times do we also see other receivers drop balls? How many other times do we watch as countless players in the backfield weren't able to win their one-on-one battles? Multiple holding penalties and multiple issues that eventually had a major role in this game. Those are things you can clean up. Those are things you can look at. You got to feel good about your wide receiver room at least taking a step forward. So taking finished with 10 catches for 127 yards. Strike that. 9 catches for 127 yards. Jaron Kanik, who I know, I said he was 6'6". I apologize. 6'2". Was looking at another tight end when that was going on. 15.5 yards of play. Had 3 first down grabs. Deion Burks has already shown you he can be a number one. Keontae Lewis walking to the party, showing off a little bit of that straight line speed. You added that into the vicinity. You got to be proud about that. Lots to like about where Oklahoma's offense can go. It was in spurts. Again, it was one of those moments of, yeah, we're going to take it and we're going to feel like, okay, it's a stepping stone in the right direction. Maybe that's okay going into Red River. What's it going to be like when you face off against Alabama? What's it going to be like when you face off against Tennessee? At that point, it's got to get to the next stage, but you're okay with that for right now. Rush attack still got to be there. I get it. It was against a very good Auburn defense, which, again, get to in a moment because we're going to talk about Auburn. You got to be able to trust that you have a secondary element. John Mateer did finish today number 2 in carries. So at least Torrey Blaylock is stepping on up as the next option. But Javonte Barnes probably needs to get a few more carries. Now that we're good, some design runs that you want for a guy like Mateer. But at some point, when we start looking at the numbers and it's 125 carries versus 61 versus the next guy up, now we have a bit of a concern. At some point, though, especially in this game, where you're just trying to walk away with a dub and prove that this is a new era and a new culture underneath Ben Arbuckle, you're not really going to be complaining. For Brent Venables' standpoint, this is a major win. And the reason why it is so substantial is because of, once again, he's crossing off all of the little boxes of people who doubted him by his decision-making. Didn't want to go out to the transfer portal and add in a couple of big-time names at wide receiver. Didn't really have to. Look at what we got currently in the building. We got a straight-line speedster in Isaiah Satenga, and we got Deion Burks back for another year, along with Jaron Kanik. We didn't want to go out and make some changes at we didn't want to hold out hope for Jackson Arnold. Want to get a little bit better at quarterback. Go bring in the offense coordinator. go bring in his signal caller that already knows the system? Did he go out and hire a right defensive-minded coach to be your DC? I'm going to run the show. Okay, asked, answered, you're doing the job just fine. And recruiting is going to pan out for you, and you're feeling the momentum. You're going to be undefeated going into Red River. I have no problem saying that. Kent State's not walking in next week and finding a way to get a dub. They just aren't. The culture change that's been necessary in Norman has arrived at this point. And you got to tip your hat to what we have seen so far out on the prairie. You do. Because of how it looks right now, it's sustainable. And largely it's due to what you have with the quarterback. Palace on the Prairie is rocking. All right, let's now move over to Auburn. I'm not going to take any shots at Jackson Arnold at all today. Outside of one. A lot of people, you, me, many a name in the media landscape, decided to talk about Jackson Arnold's arm strength and say, dude ain't got it. Dude can't make a throw to save his life 40 yards down the field. And he heard all that, and he said, okay, bet. And he did. And the problem is that if it was just a little underthrown, it would have landed with 2 touchdown passes, both to Cam Coleman. And this game would have easily been in favor of the team from the Plains. That would have happened. But that's the only shot I'm going to take at Jackson Arnold today because he played his ass off. Kid looked confident. Kid knew that his offensive line was putting him in positions to where he couldn't find success. How many countless, careless, mind-numbing penalties because of the fans in Memorial Stadium hooping and hollering and making that place a prism and a certain cathedral of chaos made the offensive line jump off sides, made the offensive line set up from a 2nd and 6 to a 2nd and 11. Issues that could have been easily corrected if you just worked on a different snap count. Didn't bother Jackson Arnold. Stayed in the pocket, did what he could deliver, and ultimately, he got hit, and he got hit a lot. 9 sacks on the day. Now, part of that's also because of the run designs where he wasn't able to create that opportunity to get past the line of scrimmage, so it counts as a sack, but it's going to show up on the stat sheet as a sack. Still, never wavered, never feared, was able to lead his team down and capitalize on a big-time scoring drive to Malcolm Simmons. Also trusted his legs to be able to get a big-time runoff. Had a touchdown pass right to Cam Coleman, who could have had 3 on the day. You earned my respect, Jackson Arnold. You did. And I think that you do have a little bit with the arm. Not saying that it's elite. You got to work on that deep ball accuracy, but you can throw the football. You connect it. You got great separation on 3rd downs. Your team as a whole wasn't that great at 3 at 15, but still, you were able to move the chains and put yourself in positive situations countlessly. Again, Jackson Arnold, 21 to 32, 220 yards. Compared to John Mateer's stats, that's not that bad when we were talking about the grand scheme of things at 271. The bottom line is that there were 3 areas where this team fell short. Number 1, pass protection for Arnold. I don't know what happened today. The sound, the atmosphere, maybe just, again, Oklahoma has one of the best defensive lines in college football. Could be the case. But 9 sacks is 9 sacks. It's not a good stat line. You can't keep your quarterback upright. You can't be able to get the shots downfield. Number 2, and this is probably the most mind-numbing one, penalties. Countless penalties. And I understand. We're going to talk about penalties that should have counted and which shouldn't. But certainly, when you give up 13 penalties for 85 yards, even if Oklahoma gets 9 penalties for 85 yards, it's a problem. It is a problem. And a majority of them came on the offensive line at ill-advised times. Like, this issues that probably should have been solved last season came back to rear their ugly head and display themselves where this became a problem once more. But the third thing, and I can't believe I'm doing this, and I understand Auburn fans don't want to hear it from me because I'm an Alabama grad, but the officiating was horrific. It was downright dastardly awful. There's no other way to put it. It was so putrid, it reminded me exactly of week 3 last season of South Carolina and LSU. Because remember that game, Nicky Manwari gets a big-time pick, and he's able to go ahead and run it all the way back, and lo and behold, South Carolina's going to win the football game. Oh, no. Late hit, Kyle Kennard, Garrett Nussmeier. Clearly was, in my opinion. Clearly it was an active play. But that was a play that was negated. Turnover counted, but the play did. So, what happened? Well, 3 plays in this game ultimately probably cost Auburn. The first one was the fumble that wasn't. Now, I know we can look back at the play and the officiating is going to have to hear it, and they're going to have to look and review. It, to me, felt like it was a live ball. Ball comes up, lands in the hand of a defender. He runs it back. That feels fair. Should have been an early 7-0 lead in favor of Auburn. Very well should have been that. The second one, the Isaiah Tenga touchdown. Now, I'm all for trickery, and I think that trickery does have a major role. If he reported on the offensive line, if he reported to the official on the sideline and made it clear to the side judge, I'm live, then he doesn't get away. Then he gets away with it, so long as he reported. But if he didn't report, and if he's just standing there and the side judge doesn't claim anything, regardless, he doesn't report, it's not a touchdown. It's an unsportsmanlike call. It's a 15-yard penalty, and the score and the 6 points should be taken off the board. And the third one, which is egregious in my opinion, on another trick play. Jackson Arnold finds Eric Singleton, who is waiting for Cam Coleman to break off of his route, and he does an exceptional job of winning against the defensive back, ends up putting a ball right at the goal line. And I understand that underthrown ball is an underthrown ball. But when a defensive back is grabbing the receiver around the waist in front of the official, that should be a clear call. And it wasn't. And I know that Oklahoma fans are going to say, well, it was an underthrown ball. Cole, it was definitely not a catchable ball that was in favor of Coleman. He should have gone up for the play. He should have gone up for the ball then. And then if it's an interception, it's an interception, and this is a moot point. But it wasn't. And regardless, you did watch as Auburn was able to capitalize, and they got their way into the end zone on this one. But all three plays were horrendous and heinous, and officiating has to be answered to this one. And guess what? Hugh Freeze is allowed to lose his bleeping mind as much as he wants on the Zebras because of he's earned it in this game. He did. He gets to let out as many F-bombs as possible because if I'm not saying that officiating cost Auburn a game, because I won't do that, but it does feel like it's pretty close. It certainly felt like the momentum swung in certain favors because of what happened with officiating. That's just my 2 cents on it. Doesn't mean it's going to entirely declaim the outcome. Maybe if you don't get that 15-yard penalty, you get a field goal, you end up winning because of the sack in the end zone with the safety again for R. Mason Thomas. Regardless, whatever you want to say with that, it's still bad officiating. Bad officiating is bad officiating. And we saw plenty of that on display today. We did. Now, the good news is we also saw officiating not take away a really good and clear-cut reception by Isaiah Tenga. So the worst part of that, even more so if you want to double on down, is it felt like it was one-sided officiating. Like that they had written the script and they had read what was a few pages and they went, oh, we're going to let Auburn back in this game. I'm gonna make a little note. Gonna ad-lib this. It's gonna be very famous at one point. Okay, now the play doesn't count. It's like they saw that Oklahoma was supposed to win and they just capitalized and made sure that was going to be the case. They're willing to throw in an improv line for an improv penalty. And guess what? Nobody's going to notice because the score still ended up being the score that they envisioned. So that's it. Officiating's got to be fixed. And I don't know what Greg Sankey has to do. I don't know what phone calls he has to make. But the atrocity and the embarrassments of missed opportunities that were out of control of Auburn should be yet another sign that something has to change. It does. But Oklahoma gets a win. And Oklahoma gets a certainly refined win. They get a deserved win in terms of the way their defense played, the way their quarterback played. They have to fix some things. It's definitely not a perfect product to where we're going to go into next week feeling like this is the team to beat in the SEC. But it's definitely, again, another step in the right direction for Brent Venables, who has a daunting task. Again, a lot of people look at the schedule and say, oh, well, look at this. Oklahoma, they're 4-0. Oklahoma right now has all the opportunity to take its advantages and go off and go to the college football playoff. Maybe they'll make it to Atlanta in the process. And then I have to remind you, let's turn your head just ever so slightly to post-October 11th and go look at who is on the schedule and how well those teams have been playing as of late. It's not a guarantee. 7-5 still very well could be in the works out in Norman, Oklahoma. It very well could happen. But so could also 10-2 or 11-1 or even 12-0 because if you got to win today. So that's where we are. Is it a win that people are going to go ahead and mock and criticize and certainly blame officiating? Absolutely they are. But a win is a win. The fact that you were able to be more efficient on third down plays a factor. The fact that you were able to be more dynamic in the passing attack, not by much, but still more dynamic, plays a factor. The fact that you were able to even lose with the time of possession and capitalize because of how well your defense played is a factor. And you lost the turnover battle, and it still was a factor. A lot of ways that I didn't think Auburn was going to, that Oklahoma was going to win this game. They found a way to do so. That's what it is. Sorry. Bottom line. You take a win and you call it as is. As for Auburn, I'm not as nervous anymore about you going to a bowl game or even finishing 8-4. You will have an opportunity, I think, in every game because of the way your defense played. They created turnovers. They got opportunities to go after a quarterback that's very mobile. They took away wide receivers on multiple occasions outside of Isaiah Tenga from time to time. And they were able to make this a one-score game going into the fourth quarter, and they responded. Auburn's defense is going to keep them in. Auburn's wide receiver core is going to keep them in. If Jackson Arnold can get a little bit more of a deep ball, he's going to have a fight in the Iron Bowl. He's going to have a fight against Mizzou. He's going to have a fight against Vandy. He can win all those games too. At 8-4, 9-3, I don't think is that far-fetched. Hell, they're sitting at 3-1. 11-1 is not that far-fetched. So maybe we get a rematch of this game out in Atlanta. Not thinking it's going to happen, but still, everything is still ahead for Auburn. Came away very impressed with how Jackson Arnold looked in the pocket, how he was able to deliver as a passer today when they took away the rushing element, and also how he would stay confident playing in an environment that people knew was going to be difficult for him. He was not the entire problem at all. In fact, for my money, there were way more issues and way more kind of flashbacks of what we saw at times by Oklahoma last season for Auburn than what we saw from Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma last year. Let's get your comments, questions before we get on out of here. All right. Like, review, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll go through as many as possible that we can. 10 sacks, you're right. It was 10. My bad. Not 9 sacks. My apologies. You're right. That 9 was the record going in, not 10 sacks. Auburn did a few good things, but Arnold did a few good things, but Auburn had a good defense. Auburn did do a few good things. Auburn did do a lot of good things. We were lucky. Offensive line play was hideous. It had moments. That's why you have a quarterback like Jackson Arnold. That's why you have a quarterback like John Mateer to go out there and get it. Our pass pro is good. Our run blocking, not good. Does not look good as of right now. OU isn't a good team. Almost got beat by a mid-Auburn team. I actually think that instead you need to flip that and say OU is a very good team and Auburn's a sneaky team. Because Auburn does have a solid defense. Auburn does have a very good offensive personnel. Auburn's offensive line was dreadful today on countless errors, not just in pass protection. Run blocking was insufficient, and the penalties itself were dreadful. But they're more of a sneaky team, I think, at this point. Auburn, I think Alabama has proven that it's a good team. It's a very, very solid good team. Just want to say, salute Jackson Arnold, good game. Yeah, he did. OU won 4-0, did. Mateer had a med game. Auburn's D-line played better than I thought. Yeah, Mateer did not have an elite game by any means whatsoever. Not into the level of where I'm going to be sitting here on Monday and say, he is now my Heisman Trophy favorite. Not going to go to that vicinity. Not even remotely close. But I think that his ability and his confidence is what we need to talk about. Again, there's a way to play quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, and John Mateer embodies that. And that was clear on display in the fourth quarter. That was clear on display on the second to last drive. His ability to stand into the pocket and take a couple of shots while finding receivers open, and then when all else fails, trusting his legs. That's what we saw from Kyler. That's what we saw from Baker. That's what we saw from Jalen. It's not just a play style. It's other things as well. And it's so fantastic in that. It truly is. The officiating was fine. No, the officiating was not fine. No, Alicia, the officiating was far from fine. That's not even remotely close. Officiating was dreadful. Countless time. Now, was a flag flown? No, it wasn't. And again, I'm going to sit here and say, I still think that Oklahoma won this game fair and square. But at the same time, you have to remember, countless plays were major issues. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. It was not great officiating. Not even remotely close, in my opinion. Yeah, thoughts on the referee. It wasn't good officiating. I'm going to stand on that. I'm not saying that there were a couple of things that could have easily gone in favor of Auburn's way. Again, the fumble, I didn't see it hit the ground. I can understand if somebody else did, but I didn't see it hit the ground. So therefore, to me, it looked like a live ball. If it was called a touchdown initially, I think it's just, if it was called a fumble initially, should have been called a fumble. That's just where I am. At least where I am. I believe the call on the field with my own two eyes. Okay. Again, we could argue this. I'm not going to sit here and go back and forth. I think that, again, regardless, Auburn was going to lose this football game. I think Oklahoma was going to win this football game. They won. They covered. They do have, in my opinion, I want to bring this up, OU has best defense in the SEC. It's top 3, and it may be top 2. I think that right now it's very clear they have the best defensive line in the SEC. They haven't missed a beat. David Stone has been awesome. He has been such a good find for how well he has played from year 1 to year 2. It's worth sometimes holding on to those players and giving them a little bit more in NIL funds. Kendall Daniels had a really good game as well. Linebacking core played really well. When R. Mason Thomas came back in, it was a difference, but the defensive line was still getting after Jackson Arnold in the first half. So you got to feel happy about that. So to me, that's where we're at. Great defensive line, great front 7. Secondary can be hit and miss. Again, how many times did Jackson Arnold just hits Coleman, doesn't overthrow him. Guillory gets cooked. So that's an issue. I'm okay with letting that be an issue that will continue to grow, but I'm not sitting here and acting like that he didn't have his own faults. Again, overthrown balls, multiple opportunities where it was clear as day Coleman was the best receiver on the field, and it eventually led to just non-factor plays. It'll be really interesting to see how Oklahoma's secondary looks against, I would say Tennessee is one. I would say certainly Mizzou, with the way their offense is one. There's a lot of things that can definitely go in favor of this to where Oklahoma's secondary does get its opportunity to kind of falter itself. Alabama's one. Alabama late in the season on the road. Let's see how well that they perform there. But from the front 7 standpoint, I'm not going to argue by much. Easily one of the best, if not the best defensive line in the SEC. Comments, questions in. Oh, we'll go about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to end the stream because I want to watch the end of what's going on with South Carolina and Mizzou before we do a live stream. By the way, we're doing a live stream with that also after this one, 9 o'clock tonight. So if you haven't already, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, subscribe to the channel because we're going to talk Auburn. We're going to talk Oklahoma. We got Sunday Fun Day tomorrow to where we're going to recap to all the games. Big win by Ole Miss over Tulane. Like lopsided beyond belief. Traynot Chambliss, way to show up today. Guillory was asked today. Yeah, again, if Jackson Arnold has more consistency, just more touch on the ball, it's a 3-touchdown day for Cam Coleman. That was the problem. That just wasn't. Who tested Tennessee's offense? UGA gave up 24 points there, man. Do we know that, Micah? Do we know that they're mid? Because as far as I know, Tennessee is not mid. Tennessee's not mid, and neither is Georgia. And you're going to see that in a week on Saturday night when Alabama takes on Georgia in Athens. Because if this is the version of Alabama that we're seeing moving forward, they're not a mid team. They're just a team that really got off on the wrong foot against a pretty actually impressive Florida State team right now. But again, Auburn loses. Auburn struggled. Auburn certainly had its fair share of opportunities capitalized. It didn't. It also had a couple penalties that should have gone its way that didn't. So we could sit here and argue. Officiating's all over the place. Doesn't matter, though, because the winner won because of, in my opinion, they were the better team. And they prepared at certain avenues. Coach Hugh got to call a timeout before that last play for Auburn. Doesn't have to, but he could. I mean, if you really want to. No, Oklahoma didn't find a way to win. Oklahoma did find a way to win. They found their way into the end zone with John Mateer on a great throw to Isaiah Satenga. And then afterwards, they found a way to get a safety in the end zone by R. Mason Thomas, who missed the beginning of the game. They found a way to win. Now, I'm not saying that officiating did help out with that, but they found a way to win. That's the answer to the question, Nathan. They did. And that ultimately is what we saw on the field today. Okay, let's end the stream here. We'll be back 9:30, South Carolina, Mizzou reaction. Talk about who is going to be able to come out on top. What are we going to expect from either one of these sides? The bottom line for me before we get on out of here, Oklahoma, you get a surefire win, strengthens your resume, strengthens your opportunity to be one of the best teams in the SEC moving forward. And also, you have an opportunity to now be undefeated after Red River, which at this point would make you bowl eligible. Because I do think that right now, if I were to be a betting man, you probably would be the favorite to win in that matchup. And speaking of which, if you don't know if you're the favorite, well, just go check the lines over at FANDUEL. FanDuel.com/SECU if you want to sign on up. New customers right now get $300 in bonus bets simply by winning their first $5 bet. So make your way on over to FanDuel.com/SECU. Could be on a John Mateer Heisman Trophy odd. Could be on the win total for Auburn. Could be on next week's receiving yard total for Isaiah Satenga or Deion Burks or for Cam Coleman in that instance. Regardless, go ahead and make your plays. Go ahead and make your parlays. Go ahead and make your same-day bets and change your bets over at FanDuel.com because college football is in full swing. The NFL season is in full swing. The only question is, where are you playing this upcoming year? Go visit FanDuel.com/SECU. Get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. All right, Auburn finds a way to make this thing interesting, but Oklahoma secures a must-have win in Memorial Stadium. 24-17 final score. Leave your thoughts and comments down below. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button, the ring notification. That way you don't miss any single time that we go live here on the channel as we are closing in on 25,000 subscribers. Auburn, you're going to be fine. Oklahoma, you should feel great. Go celebrate. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson. For both sidelines, Boomer. Enjoy your rest of your night. Peace.